Why 90% of Americans will never be rich is not a motivational slogan or an insult. It is a mathematical reality supported by income data, wealth distribution charts, behavioral economics, and decades of financial research, because in the richest country on earth, most people are trapped in a system that quietly drains their time, energy, and money while convincing them they are one promotion away from success. The average American wakes up early, works 8 to 10 hours a day, commutes for hours, pays taxes before touching their salary, pays rent or a mortgage that consumes over 30% of income, pays for health care that can bankrupt them overnight, pays student loans that never seem to shrink, pays credit card interest that compounds faster than their savings, and at the end of the month wonders why there is nothing left to invest. According to Federal Reserve data, nearly 60% of Americans cannot afford a $1,000 emergency, not because they are lazy, but because the system was never designed for them to build wealth. Wealth in America is not about how hard you work. It is about ownership, leverage, and time. And 90% of people own none of these. They sell their labor by the hour, which is the slowest way to earn money. Wages have barely moved in real terms since the 1970s. While productivity has exploded, meaning workers create more value than ever, but receive less of it. The extra value flows upward to shareholders, executives, and asset owners. This is why the top 10% own nearly 70% of all wealth, while the bottom 50% own less than 3%. The game is rigged long before adulthood begins. Children born into wealthy families inherit not just money but knowledge, networks, and confidence, while middle and lower class children inherit debt, fear, and obedience. Schools teach how to follow rules, not how money works. No class explains compound interest, asset allocation, tax shelters, or business ownership. Instead, students are trained to be good employees, take loans, get degrees, and enter the workforce already behind. Student loan debt in America exceeds $1.7 trillion, locking millions into decades of payments before they earn their first dollar of wealth. The psychology of consumption plays an even darker role. Advertising spends hundreds of billions of dollars convincing people to buy things they do not need with money. They do not have to impress people they do not know. Social media amplifies this pressure by turning lifestyles into competitions. Americans are taught to upgrade cars, phones, clothes, and homes the moment income rises, preventing capital accumulation. Lifestyle inflation silently kills wealth before it begins. Meanwhile, the wealthy do the opposite. They delay gratification, reinvest profits, and let compounding do the work over decades. Another major reason 90% never get rich is fear. Fear of risk, fear of failure, fear of instability. Most Americans live paycheck to paycheck, so taking risks feels dangerous. Starting a business could mean losing health care, missing rent, or defaulting on loans. The system punishes risk for the poor and rewards it for the rich. Tax laws favor capital gains over wages. Business losses can be written off. Investment income is taxed less than labor income, meaning the more you already have, the easier it is to grow it. The myth of the American dream keeps people compliant. The idea that anyone can become rich if they work hard enough ignores statistical reality. Upward mobility in the United States has declined sharply. Children born into the bottom income brackets have less than a 10% chance of reaching the top. Geography matters, race matters, family wealth matters, timing matters. Luck matters far more than effort alone. Yet the narrative blames individuals instead of structures. Another hidden trap is debt normalization. Mortgages, car loans, credit cards, buy now, pay later schemes, all marketed as normal, necessary, and harmless. But debt transfers future earnings to banks and corporations, keeping workers permanently behind. Interest ensures that money flows upward even when people do everything right. Healthcare costs alone wipe out savings. A single illness can erase decades of work. Medical debt is one of the leading causes of bankruptcy in America. No amount of budgeting can fix a system where survival itself is expensive. Retirement systems shifted responsibility from employers to individuals. Pensions disappeared, replaced by 401k, plans that depend on market performance and personal discipline. Many Americans withdraw early just to survive. Destroying long-term growth, financial literacy remains shockingly low, not by accident but by neglect. When people do not understand money, they are easier to exploit, easier to sell debt to, easier to control. easier to keep working longer. Richer Americans do not work harder. They own assets that work for them. Stocks, real estate, businesses, intellectual property. These generate income whether they sleep or wake. The average worker cannot access these at scale. Even investing is gated by capital, time, and emotional stability. Market volatility scares people into selling low and buying high. While institutions profit from every trade, 90% of Americans are stuck in a loop of earning, spending, and surviving not because they lack ambition, but because the system extracts value at every stage, from birth to death, from education to health care, from housing to retirement. Becoming rich in America often requires breaking rules, taking asymmetric risks, delaying comfort, accessing information early, or being born into advantage, none of which are evenly distributed. This does not mean wealth is impossible, but it means the odds are brutally low by design. The uncomfortable truth is that capitalism does not need everyone to be rich. It needs most people to keep working, consuming and hoping the top benefits from the labor of the many. And the many are kept busy enough not to question why the game never changes, until people understand that wealth is not earned through effort alone, but through systems, ownership, and leverage. 90% will continue chasing a dream that, statistically, was never meant for them. Not because they failed, but because the rules were written long before they entered the game.